Afternoon, everyone. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage bringing to you the debut video of my Necchi BF. This is a machine that has been gone through, fully reconditioned, and one of the things I chose to do on this specific machine was to give it an upgrade. And so what I've done is I've put in a motor that is about 30% stronger than the one it came with. And if you have one of these or any machine that had its original motor, you may have more power than you need. So don't feel, like you're missing something. But occasionally I get requests from people who tell me they want a little more power. They want something slightly more powerful than a standard vintage home sewing machine, but not to the point where they are not ready to purchase an industrial. And I call it an upgrading, if you will, for lack of a better term. And when I do this with singers, I think it's been a few years since I've done one, but with the singers, I install both a stronger motor and a larger hand wheel. In the case of the Necchi, I replace the motor, and of course she has a lugged belt, the little orange belt there. And I'm going to do a little sewing demonstration for you. The Necchi BF is the straight stitch version of the Necchi BU Nova, the BU Mira. These are really, I consider them heavyweights in the vintage home sewing world. The Necchis, of course, were introduced by Vittorio Necchi's company in Pavia, Italy. And you can see it says made in Italy right on the front there, and also has the Good Housekeeping seal of approval, which is kind of fun. But the Necchi company built industrial sewing machines, and then they introduced domestic machines. One of the reasons they kind of made their mark and got their name on the map a little bit more intensely than some of the other European brands was that Necchi was the first company to bring zigzag to home sewing machines on a big scale in North America. And zigzag today is a nice to have feature. Many of you use it, but before home sergers were out, it was the only way that you could do overcast stitching. But this particular machine is a straight stitcher, and straight stitch machines, I believe, have a particularly useful mission when you are going to sew anything that's extra heavy or extra dense. You really, I love having a straight stitcher, dedicated straight stitcher. It has one mission, and that is to go up and down and make a beautiful straight lock stitch. Now, I've already done some test stitching on her. I've got this green glitter vinyl, it's fabric backed vinyl, and she made some gorgeous stitches on this, and I had a leather tip needle in there. When you're working on vinyl or leather, having a leather tip needle, it's not mandatory, but if you're going to do any volume with these materials, you'll find that your machine and you will be a lot happier. But I have switched that out to a jeans needle, and for those of you who are new to needle types, whenever you see, and you can find these in many brands, when you see a jeans needle, it's not only meant to work on jeans or denim, it's really meant for any really heavy woven fabric, okay? They have a little bit beefier body to the needle. This is a size 18, so this is a fairly large needle, and I've chosen that one on purpose. For whoever chooses to purchase this machine will get a vintage Necchi needle threader, which I just demonstrated recently in a video, and that's included along with an edging foot for those of you who need to get very close. You have close tolerances for your seam edge, and then a gathering foot, a shirring foot, as it is also called. And let's see. I will start by, I think I've got a little piece here. This is a heavyweight nylon remnant from a torn and worn out backpack, and you can see it's got seams where it was folded over. Let's see, one, two, I don't know if that's 3 layers, but anyway, I'm going to fold this over in half, so we'll double what we've got here, and we'll see what the machine does with it. Remember that when you're doing any kind of heavy fabric sewing, it's really helpful to make sure you have the right needle size, and you may need to adjust the pressure on your presser bar depending on the number of layers of fabric you've got. I'm going to start with my needle down because I find that useful anytime I'm sewing anything that's dense or heavyweight. And I'm putting my fingers here because I want to make sure everything feeds under the foot. And then we'll turn her around and come back. Another thing to note, I should mention also, when you're sewing with any kind of vinyl or leather products, you might want to consider using a different foot than the standard straight stitch foot. You can get feet that are particularly for materials that bind or are not very slick to pass under the foot. Roller feet are particularly useful for this because you will find sometimes vinyl and leather can bind, not because the machine's not strong enough, but they simply bind because there's too much friction between certain leathers and vinyls. So if you don't have one, I would invest in a roller foot. They're very inexpensive. Just double check. This is a low shank machine. Some of the Neckis are high shank, but you should be able to get roller feet for just about all of these, really. So we'll come back. Making sure that we're feeding the fabric properly. And if you look here, you can see particularly when the stitching passes over the seam, how it holds its tension. There are no tension issues to speak of. And again, some of you may or may not be sewing anything like that. You may sew more cottons, like this is a heavyweight denim from an old pair of blue jeans. And we'll see what kind of job it does there. Adjust my tension here and maybe lighten it just a bit. Okay, we'll start on this side. We've got quite a few seams going on here with the pocket. You can see the pocket's an old pair of Levi's. One more turn here. And of course you have back tacking, which you should have on any 1950s machine. Okay, let's take a look. Now I made sort of a arched shape stitching here. You can see the stitching going up, coming back down and across. And now the back side is the flip side of the denim, so it's not as easy to see the stitches on here. And let's see what else you can do. I'll run the vinyl back through, and again, I don't have the leather tip needle here. That would be ideal for something like vinyl, but we'll try it and see if the foot sticks, because all vinyls and leathers can do that. But all we would need is a roller foot. Now I can sew more quickly, but I'm not. And the reason for that is simply when you sew fast with dense materials like this, you don't want your needle to pop, okay? And here's an example. This is a leather tip needle, very high quality needle, but if you look, you'll see where it curves, and that's what happens. That can happen. Someone was sewing and they went too fast, and it's again, it's not the machine's fault. It's really about the material. You want to adjust your speed for. I don't know if that showed up or not. That needle should be straight, not not bent on the end, and that just shows you the power these machines have. And here you see over here you see this row of stitches. And again, on the fabric side, they're not going to show very easily. But there you go, guys. The Necchi BF. She has, again, a motor about 33% more power than the original. But if you don't need that, the original motors were 1 amp. And they're more than strong enough to handle most sewing projects. If you are interested in seeing this machine and trying out, any fabric you have, or I can demonstrate it for you. Just let me know. And if any of you have one of these Neckis from this is an early 1950s, 1949, 1950, 51, put it down there in the comments section. Let us know what you think about the Neckis. They are right up there with the Singers as being one of the heaviest machines ever made. And when I say heavy, I'll show you her underside, and you can see the amazing steel, the heavy scale that was used on home sewing machines. And that's why after all these years, they still run and provide service. All they need is maintenance, just like this one has gotten. Thanks for watching, everyone.